registering. This is the lecture of 30 September, first part. First, we shall repeat what Cauchy theorem practically means. This theorem concerns the Cauchy problem that we studied the last lecture, and essentially the geometrical assertion of this theorem is the following. If this is the time, this is our solution epsilon. Our starting point of the solution is D. And then if we are looking for solution that belongs to some fixed interval in the future, therefore we are looking for solutions from 0 to some positive t, then this theorem practically says the following. Under suitable conditions, we can find sufficiently small interval 0 capital T such that here up to T we can build the graphic of the solution. There is solution at least for small times. This is the assertion of the Cauchy theorem, and this is very important for very general equations for which we cannot find explicit solution. Let us recall what is the main assumption and what is the assertion, what this theorem says. Geometrically, this is the meaning of the theorem. You can build a graphic, you can find solution and build a graphic, at least for small time intervals. Our key assumption about this function f of epsilon is it is defined in R. So it is defined for all values of R, and f is locally Lipschitz. Lipschitz continuity means the following. If you take two epsilon1 and epsilon2 on R, and if you compare f epsilon1 minus f epsilon2, the increasement of the function, exactly as in the definition of derivative, you have increasement of the function divided by increasement of the argument. This actually is bounded by constant epsilon1 minus epsilon2. Practically, this inequality shows that increasement of the function is not bigger than increasement of the argument with some constant in front. Of course, this shall be true only for, as we yesterday mentioned, it should be for some interval in epsilon. So we have for epsilon1 and epsilon2 belonging to this interval C1, C2. What practically means? This means that given any interval, of course, C1, C2 is bounded, we can find a constant C that depends on this interval, such that this inequality holds for all points epsilon1, epsilon2 in our interval C1, C2. Why this is local? This is local because always we have chosen interval C1, C2 that is a finite interval. Therefore, we can write here for any, this is the symbol for any, interval C1, C2, bounded, there exists a constant C such that this inequality holds for all values y1, y2 in our interval. In this sense, this is a repetition of yesterday's definition, and this is the main assumption of the Cauchy theorem. Then, as we said and as we wrote yesterday, if you remember this definition, you can say this condition fulfilled implies that we can find interval 0t such that in this interval there exists a solution. Let us rewrite again this theorem. The statement of the theorem is the following. Theorem of Cauchy. If the function f is locally Lipschitz, then there exists capital T, and as we heard yesterday, there exists. And now we have very important word, unique solution. We haven't two solutions. We have unique solution. There exists unique. Y that belongs to continuous in 0t intersected with C1 0t open, such that y1t solves 1 where in this interval. Therefore, this is the precise statement. We repeated this statement, and I would want to say that there are cases when this function may depend also on the time. If this function is independent of the time, this problem is called autonomous. Autonomous means that our function f depends only on it. So this is autonomous. When we have dependence only on it. If we have also dependence on t, this is non-autonomous. Therefore, we can distinguish two types of Cauchy problems: autonomous without dependence of t, and with dependence of t, this is non-autonomous. So we stated our Cauchy for non-autonomous, but if we have dependence on t, it's very simple to modify. So we shall add Lipschitz in y, and here we have to add and continuous in t. So for t we need continuity, for y we need Lipschitz property, this one, and then everything remains invariant. Of course, if we put t, then I have to put here t, and then I shall add t belongs to some interval 0, for example, t1, for some interval. And as you can see, Cauchy theorem is true for autonomous and non-autonomous equations. What is important? It is important not only the statement, but the geometrical meaning, because we shall have a really necessity to use this important uniqueness result to show that when we cannot solve explicitly the solution, we can, with the help of this theorem, at least approximately see where the solution is going, what happens with the solution. If this solution, if we call this 0t, the time interval of the life, we can see if the life is finite or lifetime is infinite, which is important for our applications. If the lifetime is infinity, without up to infinity, then we have to see how behaves the solution. But also when we have interval, we have to see how the solution behaves when it approaches this end of the life. Okay. Before going, since this is repetition of the statement the last lecture, I want to ask you if some notation or some part of the statement is not true, because this is very, very important theorem. And let me for the moment ask you if you have some questions or some points that are not very clear.
Can you repeat what means Lipschitz continuity?
Lipschitz continuity.
Yes.
Lipschitz. Yes. Therefore, to be more clear, for the moment, I shall clean this part of the blackboard in order to give you some concrete explanation and example. So, Lipschitz is a Russian mathematician with Jewish origin. That's why usually when you see this name, Lipschitz, this is typical. They are have particular names and can be very easy. But originally is Russian. Okay. Let us make the picture. Now the picture is the following. Here on this X, I shall put epsilon, because as we have seen, let us for the moment see only autonomous case. Therefore, we can say T is fixed, no dependence on T. And let us see what does it mean our function is Lipschitz continuous. So we said, let us take here C1, C2. This is the first step in the checking. Take C1, C2, bounded interval. This is important. Interval. And then you ask the following. If you take in this interval 2 epsilon1 and epsilon2, if you take 2 points, so if epsilon1, epsilon2 belongs to C1, C2, our purpose is to show that f epsilon. If you prefer, you can write in this form, but now I shall write exactly as we use in the definition of the derivative. Therefore, increasement of the function divided by increasement of the argument. So we divide this by epsilon1 minus epsilon2 and take absolute value. Of course, these 2 points are different. When we check, it is meaningful to take different, because if they are equal, you have smaller than 0. This is obvious. So here we can take different, and then we can write this quotient. And the question is if this is bounded. Varies y1, y2 varies in finite bounded interval. The question is to see if this expression is bounded or not. And yesterday we took two examples. I think we can repeat some of these examples. Our first example is, for example, f y equal y to the power 3. So the key point is to compute this portion. So we have to compute y1 to the power 3 minus y power 3 divided by y1 minus y2. We have to compute this and then to take absolute value. But we have a formula for a to the power 3 minus b to the power 3. There is simplification formula that gives y1 minus y2 times what we have after this. We have polynomial of second order because this is order 3, this is order 1, so this shall be order 2. So we have y1 squared plus y1 y2 plus y2 squared divided by the same denominator. As you can see, this expression now is simplified, and what remains is expression in y1 and y2. But since we said our interval is bounded, this means, for example, if y1, let us see in our case. We have, for example, y1 is bounded, therefore y square is bounded. y1, y2 are bounded, y2 is bounded, the square is also bounded, so everything here is bounded. But if we have expression that is bounded, then we have a constant. For example, if we have, let us take C1 equals 0, C2 equal, for example, 10. What we can say? How we shall estimate each of these that we set is bounded? Of course, this means y1 is smaller than 10 and also bigger than 0. From this, we get y1 squared is smaller than 100. Take the square. Y1 is also smaller than 10, bigger than 0. Therefore, we can say y1, y2 shall be smaller than 10 by 10, again 100. And y2, let's see if we can see, y2 squared is smaller than 100. Therefore, totally, we can say that this is smaller than 300 because we have three terms, and therefore our constant C is 300. As you can see, this constant depends essentially on the fact that these 2 points are fixed points and our interval is bounded. We have another example of a function that is not Lipschitz continuous. So these functions are Lipschitz continuous. We can say very simple criteria that in most of the cases is working. If f is differentiable function with bounded derivative, with, we can put also continuous derivative. Then it is a very simple thing to show that f is Lipschitz. Why? Because if f is differentiable, we have f prime. This derivative, according to our assumption, is bounded. Therefore, here I can apply Lagrange theorem that says that, according to Lagrange, this quotient f epsilon 1 minus f epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 minus epsilon 2 is equal derivative of the function in some intermediate point between epsilon 1 and epsilon 2. Of course, if we put absolute value and if we assume f prime is continuous, then it is bounded, and we can simply say that all functions that they have continuous derivative, always they are Lipschitz continuous. So this is kind of attempt to answer to your question. What is Lipschitz continuity? It is necessary to solve this problem. Therefore, given interval, see if this expression is bounded. If it is bounded, we are lucky, Lipschitz continuity, Lipschitz property, and sometimes function is called Lipschitz continuous. You can put, because this property Lipschitz, because this name shall be connected with some portion, some quantity, and this is the continuity. F is Lipschitz continuous, then we have to solve this, have to answer to this question. Let me ask you if now it is a little bit more clear, or still you have some necessity to another example.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. We shall turn to this question. This is usually one of, how to say, psychological barriers for all of students, not only you, but also from engineering faculty. They always prefer to work with differentiable functions, but this is exactly the right notion, because, for example, if you take this function, this is the other example that we heard last time. Let us take example 2. Let us take the function epsilon equal absolute value of epsilon. And here we shall take this shall be defined in interval -1, 1. So this is epsilon belongs to -1, 1. Of course, the graphic of this function is very clear. Here is epsilon, here is like this. We immediately see that in 0, this function has no tangent, no derivative, so it's not differentiable function. But if we take epsilon 1 minus epsilon 2 divided by epsilon 1 minus epsilon 2, this is our quotient, considering epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 in this interval. So we take epsilon 1, epsilon 2 in -1, 1. What will happen? Yesterday we applied, if we put absolute value here and absolute value here, we applied the triangle inequality. Triangle inequality practically shows that numerator is smaller than epsilon1 minus epsilon2. Can be bounded, and this is triangle inequality. This quantity, absolute value of absolute value of epsilon1 minus absolute value of epsilon2 is smaller than absolute value of epsilon1 minus epsilon2. And below we have epsilon1 minus epsilon2. So immediately we simplify and get Lipschitz continuity. It is clear that this is an example of a function that is not differentiable, but Lipschitz continuous. Therefore, in some cases, we have functions that are Lipschitz continuous, but we cannot say that derivative exists, and therefore, that's why the Cauchy problem, we asked this statement. Okay, if you have some other questions for the moment. If you have, also after we can do this. I think to give some example and small break. The example is very simple. Epsilon prime of t is equal epsilon t times, and here we put 1 plus t to the power 2020 sine to the power 2021 of epsilon. So we put initial data, for example, equal 1. And if this model is connected with some biomathematical model, then it is important to interpret this epsilon as a positive number. Usually this is number of infected cells, something that should be positive. But who is saying that our solution is always positive? Let us make small picture. So this is again our t, this is epsilon. So we start from 1. Of course, we know that Cauchy theorem immediately says that in small time interval, we have a solution. Therefore, we have up to some point the solution. But if we are lucky, we may have a solution that will go further like this, or can make something very bad go like this. And of course, in the moment when epsilon is 0, from biomathematical point of view, this solution has no sense. We have to check if epsilon t is solution in, let's put here another interval. Let us see, for example, this is t1. Slightly bigger than what Cauchy says. 0 t1. Suppose we have solution of 1. Solution of 1. Then we want to say what is the correct behavior, the black one or the red one. But if we have the red one, we can argue by contradiction. So let us assume Our purpose is to show that epsilon t is always positive. Otherwise, our model has no sense. How we can do this? We argue to show this property by absurd. So therefore, if this is not true, then one can find this magic time moment instant t1 belonging to 0 t1 that epsilon t1 is 0. Of course, if epsilon t1 is 0, I can go to the first equation and say from 1, if I put instead of t1, this is 0, therefore epsilon prime is also 0 in t1. Therefore, what we can say, this is a point, at this point, we have a solution, epsilon t, that at this point is 0, but also we can say, also, zeta t identically 0 solves the equation zeta prime equal zeta t 1 plus t to the power 2000 t sine 2021 zeta. Why this is solution? If I put zeta equals 0, this is 0. Derivative of 0 is again 0. And moreover, z1 is 0. So we have solution of this Cauchy problem. Actually, also our solution epsilon t satisfies epsilon prime of t is epsilon t 1 plus t 2020 zeta sine of z sine of epsilon to the power 2021 and epsilon t1 is 0. Compare these two Cauchy problems. They are the same. And we have here two solutions. In this point, one is this one, the green one, and the other one is the red one. So through this point, practically, we have situation that is forbidden by the Cauchy theorem, because the Cauchy theorem says if we start from this point with this or with this Cauchy problem, then we have only one curve. But now we found red and green one. That's why I say from here we get absurd contradiction. This is the first time we apply this qualitative analysis, so you shall see, we shall repeat it, and you shall have the possibility to use it more frequently. But essentially, this property is the following. If you escape from some domain, and if one of the x from where you escape gives you a solution, because we say that epsilon 0 equal zeta equals 0 is solution 1, then this solution intersecting two curves is impossible, because one is solution of the Cauchy problem, the other is also solution. They have the same initial data, and this is absurd due to the Cauchy theorem that says we have only one solution. And this argument that shall be repeated several times, you shall understand it really even slowly, but you shall understand it, I'm sure, very well, shows that always in our biomedical problem, we have positive solution, and this is crucial for our study to know that approximately our solution does not escape some domain. This is already some good information. And for this, we do not need, because this is absolutely crazy. Here we can solve explicitly this equation. This is not with separated variables, therefore no hope to solve it, but numerically you shall be attacked. Somebody shall say, oh, this numerical I do not believe, then why? And then we can refer to the Cauchy theorem and have precise argument that if it is confirmed with our numerical, this shall be the most satisfactory. Okay, now I shall propose you to have small break. During the break, if you have some questions, after the break, we shall start with your questions. For registering our short movie, now I shall stop registration and also shall go outside our meeting and shall enter in 5-10 minutes. So see you later.